What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to episode 122 of The Road to Glory, here with FC United of Manchester. Hopefully you guys are good. Since the last episode, it's been a while. There's been the January kind of transfer window period, plenty of games in the league, plenty of games in domestic kind of competitions. And yeah, let's just crack on straight into that, and then we will cover the transfer. So, I'm not going to cover all of these in too much detail, because as you can see, there's been a lot of games played. However, we will focus on the main ones, those being kind of the big Premier League fixtures, and then kind of our progress, I guess, in each cup competition. So, to start with, well, take a look at the FA Cup and how we've progressed in that thus far. It's looking fairly good for us, kind of domestically. I believe this is actually the club's longest period unbeaten now this season, kind of ever. And the reason I say that is obviously we had that unbeaten season in the league, but in that season I slipped up in a few games against kind of various oppositions, and kind of since then I've kind of been trying to rectify that, trying to get a season going where we go unbeaten, not just for the entire season, but just for as long as we can in all competitions, and so far so good on that front. So there's only one competition left to win, and that's the League Cup. So I'll come on to that in a second. But anyway, kicking things off here, you can see our FA Cup progress. We are in the 5th cup of the FA Cup. That is the game I'll be commentating today against Arsenal. As you can see, first leg, 2-1 win against Coventry. We played our reserves this game. Fairly good performance by the entire side. Carl Klaus and Batista getting the goals. Batista and Carl Klaus, these two guys, really excited about these as potential players for the future. Both fantastic kind of prospects in their own rights. Carl Klaus probably edges it for me, although both players are very similar. They are opposite-footed. In fact, Batista's either-footed. And I kind of just like these two guys as a pairing. I think they'll work in the future, hopefully. Of course, we've also got other options coming through, like Armando, who's a potential player. I mean, he's only 15 years old and he's got so much room for improvement, it's unbelievable. So there's plenty of options in our strike force kind of coming up through the ranks, but this was a good 2-1 win, and Carlinhos making his debut this game, getting sent off. We will come on to that shortly. And then in the second kind of match that we played in the FA Cup, which was the 4th round, we got a 7-1 win against West Ham. We dominated the game. As you can see here, Bastian Hubner, Serra and Peyrard getting on the score sheet. Great hat-trick for Hubner this game. The young German, plenty of room for improvement, this guy, but he is insane. Unbelievable talent, loads of ability. Obviously, he came in last season for £21.5 million, and so far, across 2 seasons in the league, he's mustered up 43 appearances and 29 goals in that time, which, if you ask me, that's a pretty good turnout for a 20-year-old at the end of the day who is still kind of developing and learning, and he isn't exactly the be-all or end-all of our attack either. So just to have a player like him who can come on and score and do stuff like this is insane. The overall team performance was just unbelievable in this match. You can see just on the stats and whatever, we dominated from beginning to end. 61% of possession, 28 shots. Yeah, it was a crazy game. Did some subs as well, as you can see here. Peyrard and Serra were denied the hat-tricks just to give other people runs out. I like to do that when possible. And all in all, great performance, 7-1 win. And as I said, we find ourselves in today's game against Arsenal, which I will come on to once we finish covering all the results and the fixtures. So anyway, the next little bit of fixture news is the League Cup. We'd already played Aston Villa and Man City in previous episodes. Last episode I finished things up with the QPR game in the league, in which we won, I think, 4 or 5-1. And then to kick off kind of the next set of results, we had to play QPR again in the League Cup. This wasn't quite as convincing as I would have liked, but we did make it through on penalties. We scored early on, then they scored, and then, to be honest, we couldn't break them down. That is the be-all and end-all of it. They had 2 shots on target. We had 64% of possession, but we failed to make it count, and it was one of these games where, on another day, perhaps we would have lost on penalties, perhaps we would have won 5-0. Just look at the draw, lack of clinicalness by our strikers. As you can see, Alfred Serra and Lee Wright started for us, but just didn't turn up. I mean, Alfred Serra with a 6.5 was pretty disappointing. So all in all, not the best result in the world, but we did make it through, and that was the main thing. Now, initially, I was going to commentate the League Cup semi-final second leg. However, in the first leg, we won 5-1 away from home, and it just seemed a little bit silly to do so. But as you can see here, Fulham away, 5-2 was the score at the end of it. We actually were 5-0 up at half-time, and it could have been a lot more, but unfortunately for us, we took our foot off the gas in the second half. We kind of stopped playing to the tempo we'd played at the first half, still dominated possession, did concede 2 goals, which was a little bit worrying, but they did both come from set pieces. And all in all, it was a really top-notch performance. Good to see Alfred Serra and Lee Wright make up for kind of maybe their lack of performance against QPR by getting goals in this game. Nazarov as well with a goal. So that was a good result. And then, as I mentioned, second leg was pretty redundant in the end and pretty pointless, but we did win it on aggregate 7-4, 2-2 draw, perhaps not as convincing as I would have liked, considering I did play a fairly strong side, but all in all, good performance in the end. Sarra grabbing the Man of the Match award. We dominate the game again, perhaps a little bit of a lack of clinicalness and a little bit of a lack of defensive solidity. Is that a word? I don't know. A little bit of a lack of defensive solidity at the back cost us 2 goals this game, so we have room for improvement in both areas of the park, I think, but it was still a fantastic result. And it does mean that we have Southampton in the League Cup final, which will be coming in 2 episodes' time, because we have got today's game, which is the FA Cup, and we've got the first leg of the Champions League to contend with. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to those games coming up. So anyway, we're going to wrap things up quickly with the Premier League. We've not played any games in the Champions League during this kind of period of results. Looking at our results in the league, you can see here we got draws against Derby County and Arsenal. Obviously, the Derby County one a little bit disappointing, but we did make it up for against the Arsenal game. In the Arsenal game, 1-1 in the end. Serra getting the goal for us. Unfortunately, we did concede late, but considering we didn't have the best of the play in this game, Arsenal played very well. All things considering, it was a little bit disappointing, but 1-1 on the night, I'd certainly take that, all things considering. As you can see here, we did have a tough run of away fixtures, including against Manchester United. However, we did come away from that very well, getting the double over them for this season for the first time ever, and winning 5-0 on aggregate in our Premier League game. So 3-0 against West Brom. Fairly standard performance, I believe. I'm going to insert goal scorers here so we don't have to click on every result to see who scored. So you can see here, Matty, Lee Wright, Peyrard grabbing the goals in that game. Against Manchester United, Serra grabbing an important goal for us. Good to see him getting on the score sheet, because he has certainly been doing that this season. We then played Crewe in the league, which was a 3-1 win, and I have to be honest, when I do these saves, kind of long term into the future, you usually see some odd kind of changes, and there haven't been that many kind of this save, considering we're now, 16 years? Yeah, 16 years from where we started. There's not too many crazy changes, but Crewe is certainly one of those. They are in the Premier League. They've earned a place there as well this season. As you can see, 3-1, perhaps an unfamiliar name scorer, not the traditional Jean-Christophe Peyrard. We will come on to that in a second. As you can see here, though, 2-1 against Everton, good result in the end, and then we followed it up with 3 wins against Sunderland, West Ham and Southampton. So those are the fixtures for this kind of period of results. Looking at the league table, you can see here we are top of the league, 1 defeat all season. Things are looking good for us. Arsenal are our closest contenders in second. However, Manchester City do have a game in hand over them. And you may even notice we have 2 games in hand over the teams around us. So we're certainly in a very good position to kind of take the league this year. So yeah, I mentioned a new signing, and you can see him popping up again here, Jean-Philippe Pereira. So I suppose we'll start with this guy. He is a French striker, plays alongside Peyrard in the national setup when he does come on, and he did indeed play with Peyrard under, I think it was under 17s, so they have got a little bit of link-up play there. He is a young French striker, 21 years old. He's one of these players where he still has a lot of potential, but he was really shining this season in the league for Southampton. As you can see here, for Southampton, he got 30 goals in 51 games, which is a pretty impressive turnout for a player playing for Southampton. I think you guys will all agree. He went to them for 17.75 million, and I'd looked at this guy the same summer that he went to Southampton, and I was a little bit disappointed that I missed out on him. And I made a bid of about 20 million. He had a value of around 16 million. So I thought £20 million bid, probably not going to get accepted, but you never know. And it got rejected. But then I got an email come through kind of the next day saying they'd accepted 2 offers from Manchester United, I think it was Juventus, for this guy. So I decided to swoop for him, and we got him. So good signing for us. As you can see, 2 appearances, 3 goals. Unfortunately, he did get a minor injury setback. He's out with a sprained ankle, but I think you guys can all kind of see where this guy shines. One thing that I really like to find, particularly in young players if they have lots of time to improve, is a player who has the basis of a strong player. And what I mean by this is, when you have your physical, mental and technical stats, they're all very hard to improve. The hardest is actually being physical. Physical stats are kind of hard to improve for the most part. You can improve a player's pace, you can improve a player's strength, but very much it's something that they're kind of naturally born with for the most part. So if a player has good physicals, that's a good start. So good physicals check, all 14 and above as well. So that's pretty impressive. The next thing I like to look at with a young striker is his mentals. And what I mean by this is the mentals are the second hardest thing to improve. And if a player's got decent determination, as I found out, and if they've got some solid mentals all round like this guy has, just everywhere really, at a young age, they're only going to improve over time. So when I look at strikers, I actually like to look at the mentals over the technicals. I know this is something that a lot of FMers do, but if you don't know, for me at least, when I look at, say, a player's dribbling, finishing and whatever, for the most part, I'd like to look at these as kind of room for improvement areas. These are the areas where if a player's maybe lacking, I can improve it. So with this guy, he has the natural physical ability, he has the determination, which I look at the most, and then he has solid mentals all around, and he's actually got fairly decent kind of finishing and dribbling stats and some room for improvement in other areas. And then couple that with the fact that he plays for France. He has a similar name to Peyrard for one, sharing the Jean kind of double barrel first name, and then coupling it up with the fact that he's on fine scoring form. He's the 5th top goal scorer in the league, and I think he was even higher than that before he had his injury with us. It seemed like too good of an opportunity to pass up, so he was one of the transfers that came in. There was actually one more to tell you guys about, which is, as I mentioned, Carlinhos. He got sent off on his debut. This guy comes in on a free from Brazil. He's a player who I eyed up in his younger years. His contract ran out at I think it was Internacional. Yeah, it was. His contract ran out with them. I swooped him on a Bosman. He's got insane mentals for tutoring, and he's just a quite experienced head and central midfield area who can actually play centre-back as well. So I like kind of resource players like this, players who can play more than one position, and he certainly kind of fits that trend. We have plenty of centre-backs, but he's certainly a option that I can throw on for, rotation games, and even when he needs to play, he's going to be a solid player for us. You can't deny his stats, especially, if I just highlight key attributes for a ball-winning midfielder. You can see here marking, tackling, teamwork, work rate, stamina, strength. Key areas, he has them. So it's a huge kind of signing for us, I believe this. Nice to have a bit more Brazilian flair. It's something that we had in our team during the early days, so to see a return of that is nice. And as I mentioned, on a Bosman, you can't complain. So anyway, as I mentioned, Pereira came in for £26 million, and this was by and large kind of supplemented by Ranjic going to Benfica for £15 million, which you can see here his value is now £19.5 million. But honestly, although this guy's great and he does have some talent, he just simply isn't going to dethrone Luke Shaw. And I have got some backup left backs coming in at the end of the season, so we are going to be kind of having to slog it out with Luke Shaw this season. I do also have Diego in the reserves, who's kind of a backup left wing back. He might even be in the main team now, actually. I think I might have promoted him. Yeah, he's here. Diego, he's a player who we can call upon when need be. But to be honest, Ranjic, a £15 million bid for him, I couldn't turn it down. Obviously, Luke Shaw is kind of getting a little bit on now in terms of his age, and so it's certainly worth keeping an eye on. That I am going to need to improve that area at some time in the future, but for now he does the job still. He's losing his pace a little, but he's still a solid player for us. He's still got one more year left on his contract, and as I mentioned, I have got some other transfer targets lined up. Other transfers that did happen during that window, as you can see here, just a lot of loanees, nothing too, I guess, serious here. Perhaps the two that might stand out are Ferhat Agun And I want to say Roger Cockrell, although I'm a little bit worried he's not going to reach the potential he could reach. But here we have Ferhat Agun. This guy is Tunisian as well as English, which explains his name, I believe. Turkish, my apologies. So this guy came from Manchester United a few seasons ago. As you can see, for £1.6 million, that was a Bosman. And we actually received a loan offer from QPR for him for the rest of this season as a first-team centre-back for £1.2 million, which I think you'll all agree, I'm not going to turn that down any day of the week. To make back the money on a player just by loaning him out is insane. His stats are superb. I'm hoping he's really going to get a nice first-team opportunity at QPR, and it's certainly going to serve him well. The other player was Roger Cockrell, and I can't remember how good this guy is. He's not the player he once was. Sometimes you take these punts on players. He's not the player he once was, so I can tell you that now. I mean, he does have some potential. He's 18, but he really hasn't improved over the last few seasons. But you can see Stockport are treating him well, which is nice, or at least he's improving there. So hopefully he can continue that. So yeah, I'll just show you the Bosman players that are coming in. There's a few names here who might ring familiar names, but we've got 4 coming in at the end of the season. Here we have Mark Badfi, I don't know. We'll go with it. This guy, Hungarian, 19 years old. He's nothing crazy, but he's coming in on a free. And I mean, look at his age, look at his wage. He has potential, it's always worth taking a punt on these players. He has room for improvement, and who knows, maybe he'll end up being a great target man who we can chuck on late in games, and if not, I'm almost 100% sure I can make some money off this guy, and he is coming from the Hungarian, is that the first division? Yeah, the Hungarian first division, of course the pinnacle of all footballing standards, yeah. So anyway, we have him. Other players coming in, these names. Arnaldo Sosa. I should really read these names before I start, because otherwise I just suck at reading. We all know this. But here we have him. Sosa, Paraguayan international, 100 caps, comes in on a free. What can I say? Offers something different. Great creative outlet for the team. And perhaps maybe opens up an opportunity for me to make some money off maybe a centre mid or two come the summer, who perhaps will be surplus to requirements with the addition of him. Here we have Dusty Sanchez. I mean, I love this name, but this guy, left back, I said I had a kind of replacement for Ranjic. This is the man. If I just compare him to Ranjic, you can see here, better rounded off centre-back, can defend better, has better stuff going forward, perhaps lacks the creativity and speed of a wing-back. However, he can play the wing-back position. With a name like Dusty Sanchez, you really can't complain. He's 25, nothing huge on the wage demands either, so that was a great signing. And last but not least, on the loanees, return of a legend, Akbar Musavi. This guy, the Iranian right-back, 155 caps. This guy, I've more brought him back for the nostalgia. He's not a crazy player, but he's a player who served us well years ago. He went out for £6 million to Lille. He's coming home. This guy guided us from the Championship as our team captain. Perhaps lacks the leadership qualities he once had, but this guy, you can't complain. 155 caps. Amazing mentals, even if it's just on the tutoring front that I use him. His 14 determination will be useful. Solid physicals, a player who I can really call upon when the time is right, and one that I'm really happy to have back at the squad. But anyway, that is our transfers. I did mention last episode I'm going to show the reserves. I'm going to save that for next episode because I've done quite a lot of talking already. You can see here we have got the Bayern game, which is next episode, and then the Southampton game kind of following on from that. So there's plenty of games coming up. But anyway, let's get into today's game against Arsenal, shall we? It's going to be a tricky tie. At home against Arsenal is favourable. We did, of course, in our last meeting with this side, draw, I think it was a 1-1 in the league. So we've been on par with these guys in the past. Looking at our team, I am going to be making some changes. I actually rotated around some players at the back in preparation for this game. There's probably a few players here who you're kind of surprised aren't starting. Don't worry, they are coming on for us. I'm going to take off Gauthier. It's odd. I think I mentioned this before, but Gauthier he's declining. He's on the decline as a player. Well, okay, maybe he's not on the decline. I'm lying here. But he's on the decline in terms of how significant of a player he is in our starting lineup. And this is simply because other centre-backs have improved so much. I look at Matty, superior to him. I know this isn't the best representation. I should probably put it on attribute here. But as you can see here, Matty, significantly better. Tanguy Horn, maybe not significantly better, but I prefer him just because he's more solid. Kind of as a whole balanced. I mean, they're fairly equal, aren't they? But what I'm saying is Gauthier is the team captain, but he's just not quite the player he once was. And then the last player, oh gosh, what is his name? It's the Mexican chum. What is his name? I mean, I like comparing centre-backs. Rosales, that's his name. I mean, I love kind of just comparing players because you can learn a lot about your team and kind of your strengths and weaknesses. But, I mean, Rosales, technically a better player, perhaps lacks in the mentals department, but he's 22, so he's got room for improvement and his physicals are superior. So it does leave me with a bit of a dilemma because I do like to play Gauthier, but ultimately he's not perhaps the centre-back he once was, despite the star ratings. I mean, I know people talk about the star ratings a lot. I will be doing a tips and tricks video on that for Football Manager 2014. Don't you guys worry. I know it's been requested a lot on this game. It seems a bit stupid doing it this late, but I will be talking about how, in this instance, 3.5 star to 2.5 star, it's not comparable, really. But no, I mean, I look at this team, very happy with our squad as a whole. Plenty of talent. You can see there are a few injuries to kind of consider. Rico Francis being a big one, who's been a miss all season through injury. His progress is stopping because of it, and it does leave me slightly worried. You can see here, he pulled his hamstring, then he broke a rib, then he tore his hamstring, and that's all in the last 4 months. He's just not been playing football, and it really has hurt his development at kind of this critical time in a player's career for development, but hopefully he can get back on track, slowly coming back from the injury. But anyway, I'm now rambling. Let's get straight into today's game. We are playing against Arsenal, who have Adam Berry, who is their Payrod. In fact, he's probably better than Payrod, Adam Berry. It's Adam Berry. My apologies. Look at this guy. He's a monster. I just want to do a comparison here so I can... Where's Payrod? Here we go. Boom. Attributes. He's just better than... It's mental. I think Payrod's a monster, but Adam Berry, he's been whooping ass in this league for longer than Payrod's been born. He's 30... How old is he? He must be in his 30s. Yeah, he's 30. So he's been around a little while on this save. Payrod, of course, new blood. But I'm still hoping that we can get a performance here. Let's encourage the team. Just go out there and relax. Midfield, I have faith in you. My team talks just aren't as effective as they used to be. I know someone said that if you use the same team talks again and again and again, they become less effective. I'm not entirely sure if that's the case. However, what I would say is that teams' personalities develop over time, and so team talks might not work at some point as they will at others. Hi United boy, one sec. We need to get Steam closed, so I'm offline. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. Hi United boy, there is your shout out for messaging me. I apologise, I was just recording, that's why I've not replied. Speaking of Steam, he's just shook my memory about something. I have a Steam group set up. Now, I will try and remember to put a link down in the description, but if I haven't, someone remind me. My plan is that I will be doing... Hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm still waiting on my uni internet to get better. They're meant to be installing a new line, but you know what internet people are like. But hopefully I'm going to be doing maybe some network cups with subscribers. I may even be selecting random members of the group who are online to come and play me in a game. So if that's something that appeals to you, if you want to kind of have a chance of playing with me in random games, so if you're on FM one day and I'm thinking, I feel like playing a subscriber, and you'd like to kind of say hello, that is your opportunity to do so. And I will try and remember to post updates and stuff. I know I have a Facebook group which I never post updates on. I need to get in the kind of habit of doing that. Payrod, where are you going, son? I will sort that out also. And also, while we're at it, let's just plug everything as well. Let's get the full house. I have Twitter. It's what I use the most. If you want to talk to me or get an instant reply from me, Twitter is the go-to place to go for all that stuff. If you want to know where I am, obviously I know it's been a little while since the last episode of this. If you want to know when the next one's coming up, your best bet is to message me on Twitter. Oh, God. And then, yeah. I try to respond as much as I can. Twitter is the place to go if you want to get in contact with me, though. But anyway, 0-0 as we can see here. pretty standard first half. We've actually had 72% possession. I didn't even notice that. That is crazy. We've been all over Arsenal. I'm going to be worried if we don't win this now. I kind of don't want to change the game plan, but at the same time, I'm going to have to, because otherwise we're going to struggle. You can see here both centre mid struggling for fitness. I'm going to do a straight swap in the central midfield area. Sarah's not had the most memorable game, so we are going to go for the typical FM freeway sub in the 65th minute. This is where I'm now going to get an injury or a sending off and be completely screwed over by the game. But here's hoping that we'll get an exception to the case now, and maybe even the goal that we need. It looks like we've got a chance here. Luke Shaw, Payrard. Options in the centre. Payrod doesn't need options though. He does need Nazarov. Right, that was less than convincing. Time to use the shouts. I know that FM's removing the sliders this year. I always use the sliders. It's what I love, and I've had a few discussions with people about this, and I know there's always this debate going on Twitter about it. I need to get in the habit of using the shouts more, setting up preset shouts, I guess just getting to grips with it. I know what all these do. They're just preset kind of slider positions, but I just don't use them. I'd rather just change the sliders for the most part. I have tried to use them this year, especially when I'm on video, because I know it's when new players come through. I highly recommend using the shouts. This result isn't bad though. Well, it's not great. It means that I'm going to have to play another game potentially. So I suppose it's not ideal, but I'd take 0-0. It's just a shame about the performance, the fact we had 62% of possession but just couldn't do anything with it. That simply put was not good enough. At least I got the team talk right that time. I don't know when the FA Cup draw is. Oh, it's tomorrow. So we'll see who we could potentially come against. Obviously, there is going to be a replay of this game. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to commentate it, simply because I've got the League Cup final coming up. The Champions League knockout stage is starting. I'm going to have lots of episodes to do, and as I've mentioned in previous episodes, I want to kind of get through this save as much as I can, although realistically now I'm looking at it, I'll probably be lucky to get to the end of next season on the save before FM14. But yeah, I'll just show you this guy. I want to get this guy. His name's Clemente. We'll go with it. He's Spanish. 20 years old. One who I'd definitely like to snap up from Real Madrid if I can while his value's still low. But no, that's not great, that result. If it had been a league game, a draw is a great result, but in reality, 1-1 and another game to kind of potentially play is certainly less than ideal. Let's see who is in the draw for the quarter-final. I'm going to have it on automatic draw. Let's build up the tension. Some big names left in here. United are out. Oh, I wanted Blackburn Ravens. Crew or Watford would be good. Oh. Who are we getting? Don't give us Chelsea. Okay. The game knows. It knows, people. It's not ideal, but at the same time, I want to say it could be worse. It really couldn't have been that much worse. I can deal with that. I'm probably not going to do the Arsenal game as a result. If we'd got maybe Crew in the next leg, I would have been tempted to say, well, considering the fact that it's going to be Crew in the next leg, if we do get through, which should be a win, I'd commentate the the fifth round replay, but ultimately it's not worth it. Looking at the fixtures, you can see there's plenty coming up. Bayern Munich will be next game. Then it'll be the Southampton game. As I mentioned, I'm not going to do the Arsenal game, and then we're going to have the Champions League. Through to the end of the season, I do believe. There's a few big games here. Depending on their significance, particularly the Arsenal one, I may be tempted to live com them, but we will just go with the flow and see what happens. But anyway, guys, hopefully you did enjoy the video as always. As I mentioned halfway through the video, I think, sorry about the lack of uploads. Back at uni this week, your fixture kind of gets a bit, screwed up, and kind of your daily plans. When you go home for the summer for 5 months and you're at home and then you come back to uni, cooking for yourself. I know it sounds like the tiniest little thing. If you cook for yourself, you know exactly what I'm on about, but it's a bit different. It's like moving house, and it takes a while to get adjusted to, and obviously catching up with people I've not seen all summer. So I have been a little bit busy on that front, but regardless, hopefully you did enjoy today's video. As I mentioned, sorry I didn't do any updates recently. Go and check out Twitter, Facebook, the Steam group thing. I'll put the links down in the description. It's the best way to get in contact with me. And other than that, guys, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.